Can I challenge that?
Challenge flag thrown by John Harbaugh.
Can I challenge that?
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Challenge Flag, where we call BS on fantasy football's so-called experts. I'm Zach Dorfman, joined by Mike Conti. Mike, tell them how it is.
Asados.
And thanks for tuning in to our first official episode. Woot woot. This episode we're going to be focused on quarterbacks. So, Mike, tell them kind of like what's going to be going down.
Today we'll be taking a look at the experts' rankings of the QBs, and we'll be analyzing any disparities among the top-tier QBs. So we're doing this so you guys have a better idea of the experts' rankings and their reasonings behind it and why we think they're accurate or not.
And if you like what you hear today, give us a follow on Twitter at @flag_challenge. Head over to YouTube and like and subscribe at The Challenge Flag, or send us an email at thechallengeflagofficial@gmail.com if you have any questions on certain players, or you have some players that you want us to take a look at so that we can help out your fantasy lineups as well. So how our show is always going to work is that I'm going to give you the player that we're going to be analyzing. We're going to give you the rankings of what some of the experts are saying. You know, you're going to see like a wide range of people ranking players high, people ranking players low. And then Mike and I are going to go into what you're hearing around the league, some stats that we found ourselves, and then point you into who we think is most right on some of these players. And then we're just going to move on to the next guy. At the end, we're going to give you some of our against the grain picks. So because some of these players, everyone feels pretty solidly on, and we might have some different ideas, and we're going to give you some little tidbits as to probably why, and maybe change your idea away from some of these expert consensus rankings as well. So before we get into the guys on our list, let's talk about QB draft strategy. You know, regardless of where we rank in these people, let's talk about QB draft strategy, because you and I are definitely both on the same page with this. And it's that don't pick Aaron Rodgers in the 4th round. Don't do it. Like, it's such a waste.
Don't take him in the 4th round. And also, historically, Cam Newton is the best fantasy football quarterback. He goes 8, 9, 10th round. Don't waste the top 5 pick. Don't waste one of those key special positions, wide receiver, running back, possibly tight end pick on a QB that's going to get you 2 or 3 more points a week than some no-show that you could get in the 12th round.
Yeah, like let's look at, all right, so if we looked at, you know, how much some of them averaged a week for like the top guys from last season. So like Russell Wilson was the first and kind of like blew everyone else out of the water. So he averaged 20.7 fantasy points per week. You go down to number 2 at Cam Newton, 17.9. Tom Brady, 17.8. Alex Smith, 17.6. You go all the way down to like the 12th ranked quarterback. They were only averaging 2 less points a week. Now, that's a good amount. But if you could draft, so let's just say, you know, the 12th ranked quarterback, right? They average 2 points less than the 2nd ranked quarterback. Right now, ADP wise, the 12th ranked quarterback is Andrew Luck, going in the 2nd pick of the 10th round. The 2nd quarterback, ADP wise, is Deshaun Watson, 1st pick of the 5th round. That's a 5-round difference for 2 points a week. I'm not doing it.
Much rather fill a running back there, your RB2 or wide receiver 3, or even your tight end there. Definitely, personally, no QB, no go for me.
Yeah, and there's people outside even the top 12 ranked that are good. I mean, you mentioned Phillip Rivers. People expect big things from Pat Mahomes, even though he's got a really tough first 4-week schedule.
Let's see, 5th round, people who are being drafted around Deshaun Watson. You got Mark Ingram, Royce Freeman, Brandon Cooks, Jimmy Graham, Lamar Miller. Those are legit RB2s. Would you rather have an RB2 or a quarterback who's going to put up 2 to 3 more points a week compared to a quarterback that you could have drafted way later?
Oh yeah, no brainer, no brainer.
Take the value where you can get it. The point differential in a 5th round running back and a 12th round running back is much more different than a 5th round QB and a 12th round QB.
Now, where do you? Let's just say you're drafted, and everyone in your league has the same idea. Like, we're not drafting.
That happened last year. Aaron Rodgers, Tom Brady went back-to-back in the 5th round. They went 6-7 in the 5th round, way below their ADPs.
Now, where are you? Because I'm right there with you. I'm not even sure I know the answer to this question, but where are you? Like, Aaron Rodgers is still on the board. Nobody's drafting quarterbacks. Where is the earliest that you're taking Aaron Rodgers?
I mean, I would pull the trigger on him 5th round.
Okay. Like first pick, 5th round?
Yeah, because by then, I would imagine I'll have my running back, RB1, RB2, wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2. And you could definitely go top 3, top 4 tight end there.
See, 5th round.
This is only because we're talking about Aaron Rodgers. We're talking about the MVP, the guy you expect to put up those monster points every week.
Yeah, I agree. Everyone else is like too much of like a what if, like could go, because if you're gonna waste that pick, you want to know that like you're getting the number 1 quarterback, not not getting someone who's like, could slip down to the 3 or 4. Like, yeah, you don't want to do that because you could find that later. But in the 5th round for tight ends, so Broncos 2nd round, Travis Kelce 3rd, Zach Ertz 4th, Jimmy Graham and Greg Olsen are both in the 5th.
Yeah, so
yeah, when you think about it that way, like Aaron Rodgers is a little bit more valuable of a player than those guys. I mean, for me, I'm probably just ignoring it and telling myself I'm probably telling myself
I'm
like,
not. That was when I would take Aaron Rodgers.
Yeah. If you had to.
I have zero intent on taking Aaron Rodgers. I plan on taking my sleeper QB of this draft. Everyone's giving me flack for it. Mm-hmm. I would probably go Tyrod Taylor in the 14th, 15th. He has too good of wide receivers. He can run around. He's got the arm. He's good.
Taylor.
Especially for someone that you're a starting quarterback. You can take a starting quarterback that late. Like I said, I drafted Phillip Rivers in the 14th round last year in my league, and he wound up being a top 10 fantasy quarterback. Could it just be that my league has no idea what they're doing?
Yeah, that's true.
I don't like to think that. I think there's some fantasy gurus in there. But everyone slept on Rivers. I needed a quarterback. He was the best available. I took him. And I definitely think Tyrod will be there this year.
Okay, so now like when you're thinking like I'm taking Tyrod Taylor, who has to be like left on the board? Like who are you taking Tyrod above?
A lot of people, honestly.
So
I can't, and maybe there's people out there who with their leagues, many people draft a backup quarterback. I think drafting a backup quarterback is complete nonsense. My league last year, I think we had 2 or 3 people draft a backup QB. So by then you're getting to the 15th ranked QB, which right now ADP 15th is Ben Roethlisberger, which he's a slinger you could just take. Mm-hmm. Keep him for the home games where he normally kills it. But Alex Smith is down there at 19. I mean, I might take Smith over Tyrod. He was a top QB last year.
Yeah.
Granted, the different teams with a different team this year. I'd say less talented wide receiving core, but he can think and dump to Crowder all day.
Yeah, now with so you mentioned Tyrod, like with awful wide receivers. So one thing that Tyrod doesn't do is he doesn't throw many picks.
He does not.
In 2015, 6, 2016, 6, and 2017, he only threw 4 interceptions. Not many touchdowns, though, 2017 and 14, so his touchdowns have gone down. His yards also, as well, every single year, his passing yards have gone down. 3,035, 3,023, 2,799. Exactly the same with his rushing. His attempts have gone down every year. 104 attempts to 95 attempts to 84 attempts. But
has he ever had 2 top 20 wide receivers and a debatable top 10 running back in Carlos Hyde?
And that's the thing. That's the thing that's different is that the Browns are this like random ragtag bunch of players that have assembled together that could be great. And Josh Gordon's ceiling is the best wide receiver in the league.
Exactly.
Yeah. Jarvis Landry's ceiling is a top 5 guy. Carlos Hyde's ceiling is a top 5, top 10 running back. So, like, what we're basically saying is the best QB strategy is waiting as long as you can and getting some value picks out of quarterbacks. You know, we're going to do this whole episode talking about quarterbacks, but, you know, when it comes to drafting time, we pretty much agree that later is better for these guys. All right, let's get right into our first guy on the list. The first guy we're going to be talking about today is Andrew Luck. Now, currently, he has a consensus ranking of 13th overall, but his ADP has him going 12th. You know, on Yahoo, 2 different experts ranked him 16th and 19th. ESPN, he's around 9 or 10. Clay 9, Barry 10, Carabell 10. Fantasy Pros have him pretty high at 6. Andy Holloway at 5. Mike Wright's got him at 8. Pro Football Focus, 2 different experts have him at 12 and 17, so Andrew Luck is all over the place. Right now, he is the
10th round, second pick, 12th overall.
Oh, yeah, he's the 12th quarterback off the board, 10th round, second pick.
In 12-man leagues, of course.
In 12-man leagues, of course, that is true. Because, like, some people have him at 16, 19, 13, like, outside the QB1. You know, some have them like within the top 5. So where do you see him more finishing?
As we discussed earlier, he was a top 5 quarterback prior to his injuries. Even after his 2015 injury, he came back, he killed it, had a 4,200-yard season, 31 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. But this being a more dramatic injury, he missed a whole year. He just picked up a football for the first time about a month ago. I don't believe he's thrown an NFL football yet. I don't have the faith in him to put up the same numbers that he's put up before.
So let's just say, I'm going to play devil's advocate. Let's just say preseason, he goes out and he's killing it, right? Now, we know that preseason is, you know, a little wishy-washy on like how much it really matters. But like preseason, he goes out, he kills it. Do you change your mind going into the season then?
100%.
So it really
I'm investing a lot in his preseason performance. Honestly, I don't know if he's even on track to play in the preseason this year, as I've seen nothing on that. He might be a week 1 start. He might be a week 4 start. We've heard nothing about his status of a return yet.
Yeah, that's true. All right, so it's basically like, you know, if you had to guess,
you gotta
like,
prove it to me. You have to prove it to me. If he can repeat what he does, obviously he's a top 5. I don't think he'll be as. I mean, he's had the rest, but that could also mean that he'll be rusty. He'll have fresh legs under him. I believe he had quite a few rushing touchdowns.
He's got 2 in 2016, 3 in 2014, 4 in 2013, 5 in 2012.
How many yards though?
So he's got like 60 attempts per like full season. It's 62, 63, 64, 64 in the full seasons he played. He went 255 yards, 377, 273, 341. Rushing.
So he averages 18 yards. That's 2 points a week. I mean, 2 points isn't much, but ideally you want to get 20 points at your quarterback minimum, and that 2-point bump is just enough to get them over that 300-yard, 2-touchdown game to 20 points.
Okay, so if he shows that he's like can throw an NFL-sized football, he comes back, he plays preseason, shows that he can keep up with the pace of like actual an NFL game, because the whole season off is like tough. So if he comes back and shows that in the preseason, you're gonna more agree with, you know, the Fantasy Pros at 6, Andy Holloway at 5, Mike Wright at 8, right?
Yeah, and assuming he can still throw that long ball to TY.
Yeah, what concerns me is the like that whole year off, like you said. I mean, like a whole year off throwing a high school foot-sized football. Like, he did just come out and say that he has no pain, none. So he did, though, in that same article say that he still has a dip in his arm when throwing. And it's getting less and less every time he goes out and throws. But there still is a dip there. And preseason is fast approaching. So it's hard for me to see like, oh yeah, 4,200 yards, 31 touchdowns from a guy who like right up to the season is trying to get back to being able to throw the ball, where where he was able to, like the way he was able to before. But what pisses me off, and it should piss everyone off, what pisses me off the most is ESPN's rankings. Every single expert from ESPN has him right in the middle, like at 10, like end of the QB1 range. And to me, that is awful. And this is why I I wanted to do the idea for this show. Because if you're on an ESPN fantasy league and you just follow your ESPN platform for rankings, this is not what's going to happen. If Andrew Luck plays because he's 100% healthy, he's getting the 4,000 yards, 30 touchdowns that he always gets consistently. If he doesn't play, or, plays part of it and, his shoulders, bothering him and he's got to sit out, then he's further down than 10. So, to me, when I see that, ESPN ranks him around 10, is this, total BS safe pick, just trying to be well, we don't want to be too wrong, but we're probably not going to be too right, so let's just leave him in the middle here. And to me, that doesn't help you out. If you're trying to study for your fantasy team, doing that safe pick doesn't help you out. You want to be listening to people who are going to say, hey, he's really good, take him, or he is not going to be good, don't take him. And so, that more just goes to show, again, why you need to, branch out and look at more than just one platform. Because the big platforms are going to do that a lot, where they're going to just give you this, we're not really sure about this guy, so we're just going to put him right in the middle.
While I agree that it's a cop-out, I can't say I blame him. Because, like I said, all depending on how his preseason goes. To some people, I don't know why, they'll draft before preseason week 1, week 2, week 3. And for them to see that he's ranked 10th and he's yet to really prove anything, I would say that's a semi-accurate. He hasn't shown that he's going to be a top 5 again, and he hasn't completely stunk it up to the point where you're just not even going to waste your time on him. As of now, I can kind of understand it, but like I said, it is a cop-out. But once the preseason comes around, should he play, that will definitely his rankings will definitely be changed. There'll be big articles about it. Andrew Luck bust this year. Expect big things from Andrew Luck. Everyone will change their mind once they actually see what he does on the field. Yeah,
that's true. I see what you're saying. Where you get it, cop out before you see it. It just makes me very, very angry.
They're getting paid to put out that information.
Yeah,
it's not even useful.
Now, so if you have gun to your head right now, you got to tell someone what QB rank you should take Andrew Luck. Is it in that top 5? Is it outside the QB1 range in the teens? Right now, you have to predict what's going to happen. Go. What is
gun to my head? Historically, I draft my QBs in the 14th and 15th round because I don't care about them. But gun to my head, I had to give an accurate guess where he's going to finish. I would say slow start. He will eventually pick it up. He's a Stanford grad. The dude's a genius. But during that slow start, he'll have Jack Doyle as a safety cushion down low. He had a great year last year. He finished tight end 7 with Jacoby Brissett throwing to him. He had 80 receptions for 690 yards and 4 touchdowns. So I could definitely see Andrew Luck taking advantage of him in the early parts of the season just to get going. And once he gets going, he gets comfortable in the motion, in the pocket, throwing the ball deep downfield to T.Y. I think at that point he'll be definitely a top 5 quarterback option.
And I thought we were going to disagree on this one. I will actually agree with you. I just think that, injured in 2015, came back through 4,200 yards, 31 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. To me, that's the year off is still a little scary for me. But if I had to gun to my head, pick it, I'm going to go with Andy Holloway from the Fantasy Football's rank of 5th overall, because I just think that if he plays 100% healthy, he's that good. So you follow Yahoo, get out of here with that. ESPN, grow some cojones and make a pick or something. So yeah, high picks from both of us for Andrew Luck. All right, here's a guy that I know that you're going to be so excited to talk about. And I know you're going to have your...
Carson Wentz. I hate him.
How did you know? How'd you know? All right, Carson Wentz. Everyone, pretty much all experts have him in their top 7. His ADP, he's going as depending on what league or what format you're looking at, about the 5th or 6th quarterback off the board. That would be, in the one that I'm looking on Fantasy Football Calculator, he's going as the 5th off the board in the 11th pick of the 6th round. Okay. We all know what Carson Wentz did last year. 6 of the 13 weeks he played, he had over 20 fantasy points. In one of those weeks, he had 30 fantasy points. And even the ones below it, 18, 16, 19, 16. Carson Wentz was winning you a good number of weeks, fantasy-wise. However, again, not to mention, 2 of my boys from the Fantasy Footballers tend to think a little bit like you and I. Jason and Mike have him ranked as the 11th and 15th. So a fringe quarterback 1, if you're in a 12-man league, or like me, if in a 10-man league, he's outside quarterback 1. So it seems that like most experts have confidence that he's in that top 7. Drafters are having confidence that he's going even higher than that. And we got 2 guys sitting out here ranking him at 11th and 15th. Mike, tell us a little bit as to why that might be.
First off, if you watched him play last year, you noticed most of his big plays was him escaping the pocket, him being mobile. And as someone who lives in the Philadelphia area, listen to the sports talk radio, all you hear is about how the coaches wanted him to be less mobile. So he puts up all his big numbers. I mean, I watched every game. As I've watched Red Zone, I watch every game. But
which let's put like a little shameless plug out there for Red Zone. We do not work for Red Zone. However, if you do not watch Red Zone, then you are stupid.
Unless you're an avid fan of a sports team and they're playing at 1:00, you're not going to watch all of their 8 games if your team is on.
True, but that
is the exception.
That means there's still time in the day to watch Red Zone. So unless you're actually going to the stadium and you're not home, sometime on your Sunday you should be watching Red Zone.
Indulge, enjoy.
Absolutely.
All right, but still, a majority of his plays was based off of his mobility in the pocket and his ability to extend plays.
Yeah.
I would imagine coming back from this injury, it is much worse than it was originally thought to be. He tore 2 ligaments, I think LCL, ACL off the top of my head.
Yeah.
That's definitely going to impact his movement. That's always going to be in the back of his head when he's going to get out of the pocket to make more time to make those plays downfield. And I just don't think that's going to be there. And honestly, the Eagles wide receiver core is nothing special. Nothing you'd hang your hat on to have. What were they having them top 5 to 7?
So stupid. So stupid. Like, everyone's going to sit here and sleep on Jordy Nelson in Oakland, but you're going to sit here and talk about how the Eagles have the top 10 wide receiver.
Alshon Jeffrey is a nice wide receiver too. He's not a wide receiver 1.
Yeah, which, I mean, I guess, like, for real football, sure, he could be a wide receiver 1, but for fantasy football, like, I don't. No way. Here's why I believe that Carson Wentz is going to go not as the 5th or 6th quarterback off the board. We all know that he had a knee injury this past year. Carson Wentz tore his LCL and ACL, which is a pretty catastrophic knee injury. Now, everyone's saying he's on track. It happened before the end of the season, so he's had a lot of time to recover, back on the field, back in football shape, back with the football pace. He's going to be fine. Here's the thing, though, that you have to... The reality of it is that he's going to have to rein it in as a runner. Now, we're going to talk about his rushing later and why it was really important to his success and the team's success. But if he does need to be more of a pocket passer, less of a scrambler, last year Carson Wentz had a 55.78% passing play success rate, which was 24th in the NFL. So just pure passing, the Eagles were ranked 24th in the NFL for actually successful passes. All right. However, rushing, they averaged a 4.5 yards per carry as a team. So that's Wentz, that's all the running backs. They're a successful rushing team. And I think that they this year are going to move into leaving the rushing to those rushers, especially because they were so successful last year. Now, for Wentz's rushing, right? He rushed 64 times for 299 yards. That's not amazing. So a lot of people are going to look at that and say, well, you know what? Even if he doesn't rush those 64 times, maybe if it's only like 20 times or, only on like QB sneaks on 4th down, things like that, it's not taking many fantasy points away from him. However, it's about when he was rushing and about how he was able to extend drives, which is what makes his rushing so important to the success of his game. So the Eagles' most successful play on second down and 4 and 7 yards to go. So not second and long, but not second and short either, like second and medium. The most successful play on the Eagles was Wentz rushing the ball. So he's not just rushing and just finding success on, QB sneaks or, on third and short or fourth and short. He is finding, on plays that are, broken plays or plays where he found some room or his options were covered, he was able to run the ball and extend the drive. He does also get it done, though, on fourth and short from, 1 to 3 yards out. 7 times and 100% of the time, he rushed and got the first down every single time. Now, here is where I think that we're going to find less production from Carson Wentz. Philadelphia ran plays from the shotgun 718 times, and under center only 340 times, so almost twice as much they ran plays from the shotgun. That was because they played a large number of RPOs, which is the run pass option. They actually ran 18% of their plays as RPOs, which was second in the NFL. Not really second. The Chiefs had an 18.1% RPO percentage, play choice. So it pretty much tied for first. That allowed Wentz the option to hand off, or if he sees the linebacker jumping up, there's usually a slant option across the field. He'll keep the ball and throw it to that slant option. Or, however, he can run it himself. Now, having a running quarterback or a quarterback that, has the ability to run is a nightmare for linebackers, because now if there's a running back that's less successful, or you're just going to try to challenge the quarterback, you can just cheat one way or the other. However, what can happen is now a linebacker decides to shade back to cover the pass. If the quarterback, because a lot of times linebackers will try to fool the quarterback and make it look like they're going to jump in to stop the run, but they'll actually shade back and watch that pass over the middle. Quarterback keeps the ball. Wentz looks downfield. The passes aren't open. He can decide to run the ball. And he did it. This is not just, just assuming he did. He rushed for 26 first downs. 40.6% of his runs, of his 64 runs, were for first downs. So a large proportion of his runs were him analyzing the situation on RPO plays and deciding to take it himself, not hand it off, not pass it to the guy down the field. He had enough room to run.
And all of those carries, the Philadelphia Eagles management did not want him taking. They specifically told him, lay off the running, we need to keep you healthy.
Yeah, so more of a reason now that he gets injured, right, to say that he needs to rein it back. It's like, hey, we were telling you this all this time. Run the RPO how it's supposed to be done. Either hand it off or pass the ball. But it's crazy. Almost half of his runs were for first downs, and he was the most successful, second and medium playmaker on the team. Now, also, so now he's going to have to be more of, the team's not going to let him run, and he's not going to be as successful with it. It's going to give linebackers an advantage against him. It's going to give defenses as a whole an advantage. But also, he had a 7.5 touchdown percentage, which is not sustainable as a passer. It's just not. If you don't know what touchdown percentage is, it measures the rate of passing attempts by the quarterback that are touchdowns. And it is common knowledge that if you get a touchdown percentage of above 7, you're not going to see that continue into the next season. Usually in the 6s is where we see most of the top quarterbacks land. If you're over 7, then you had an amazing year. But that's not a sustainable percentage. So his touchdowns are going to go down. His rushing is going to go down, and his rushing going down is not a factor of you take away, he only had 29.9 rushing points on the whole season. However, that's more about extending plays, extending drives to be able to get more fantasy points for him. So, I just see him as a pretty average fantasy guy. I mean, I pretty much see him as the Drew Brees from last year. Everyone expects good things, and he might have a great quarterback rating, great completion percentage, but for fantasy-wise, I see Philadelphia more mixing things up with the run, letting a lot of the running backs do the work, and, him just taking more safe plays.
Yeah, I mean, you hit the nail on the head with the dying down. He's a quarterback, and he was able to extend plays, and just the fact that the knee is the key component in cutting and juking, which is what Carson Wentz did. There's one play against the Redskins that just sticks out in my mind where two or three would-be tacklers to sack him behind the line of scrimmage. He managed to duck and dive out of all of them and get the pass off downfield. I don't think that capability is going to be there this year. I don't think his reliability and his knee's going to be there. He'll have the faith in his knee, but I just don't think.
But everyone does
cooperate. Yeah, you have to have the mindset that you're good to go. Because if you don't have that mindset, you're not going to produce. But I mean, I'd say he has the mindset. I just don't think it's there. It's a surgically repaired knee. It's never the same after the surgery. Oh, yeah. So.
Okay, yeah, I'm going with Jason and Mike from the fantasy footballers here, where they have him at 10-12. That's pretty much where I'm going to have him, because he's still a good quarterback. He's going to put up points, and you don't have to be spectacular to be a top 12 quarterback, and I think that's what he's going to be. He's going to be pretty lukewarm. I'm not going with the whole up there with Drew Brees and Cam Newton and
I just don't think he just doesn't have the talent there.
Yeah, right. That's something we could talk about too, Mr. Eagles saying that they have the best wide receiver. We will definitely talk about that when we do our wide receiver episode. Absolutely. Next guy I want to talk about is Deshaun Watson. There's a lot of Deshaun Watson truthers out there. Currently, he is the quarterback ranked 4, consensus ranked 4. And that's pretty much across the board. No one is really, really much higher than that. No one is much lower than that. Sure, you'll get like a little bit. However, it's not like enough to consider to be a considerable difference for us to talk about. Everyone's expecting him to have a great season. His ADP, however, he's coming off as the quarterback 2. And personally for me, having to give that price for his small sample size is a little bit absurd. Now, I have some talking points here, because I think that we're going to be a little bit different on this. But Mike, tell me what you think about Deshaun Watson going in. Would you pay the asking price for, if he's being drafted as the second quarterback, would you pay that asking price? Would you pay it as if he's the 4th quarterback off the board? Tell me what you're thinking.
Personally, as you know, I don't take quarterbacks till in the back end of the draft. Last year, 12-man league, it wasn't until the 5th round the first quarterback was drafted in Tom Brady. So that's the kind of league that I'm involved in at the moment. But Deshaun Watson, talent's there, run all over the field, but I don't think he's going to have the same issue like Carson Wentz. That knee injury will be in the back of his head. I mean, the talent is there, plenty of talent. He's throwing to DeAndre Hopkins, the guy catches everything. Will Fuller showed up last year. I mean, I put him above Wentz, but definitely not QB2 or 4.
Okay, so if it was gun to your head, where are you ranking him? Or where would you take him? I know that you wait until the end of drafts, but
yeah.
When does it become where you're this guy's still on the board? Where would you?
If he's there in the 7th or 8th round for me, because like I said, I go super late, but that type of talent, if he's there, I definitely think ranking wise, 5 to 7. I always have Rodgers, Wilson, Brady, Breeze above him. Those are locks every year.
Ooh, Breeze, you're getting ahead of yourself with one of the talking points that I wanted to bring up, because people be sleeping on Drew Brees this year, and I just don't get it. I don't get it. But here are some things that might make you see. I thought that you were going to be Deshaun Watson all the way.
Oh no, not at all.
I thought you were going to be
I thought of him as Chris Thompson-esque.
All right, but now everyone says that he was a monster last year, which he was. But let me give you a little bit of a truth about those statistics that you see. He played
Garbage
seven.
time.
He played 7 games last year. He only had 2 games without throwing an interception. So there's that, young quarterback comes in and makes a lot of mistakes. We forget that because of how successful he was. He was still getting points on, even though he was throwing picks, because he was just getting so much. His 4 monster weeks, okay? He played Tennessee, Kansas City, Cleveland, and then at Seattle. In that Seattle game, he threw 3 interceptions. Sure, he had 4 touchdowns, which elevated his points, but he made a lot of mistakes there on the road. And the other teams that he played, Tennessee, Kansas City, and Cleveland, all no defenses to really shake your tail at.
So 3 of his 4 standout games last year were against below 500, bottom of the pack, pass defense. He faced Kansas City, who's ranked 29th, Tennessee was 25th, and Cleveland at 19. So you have to keep that in mind too when taking a look at his numbers.
Yeah, exactly. He played a top defense once. That was his first week, so you can look at it as, let's throw it out because it was his first game in the NFL. Or you can look at it as, how did he do in his small sample size? How did he do against top defenses? He got 5 fantasy points. He threw for 100 yards, fumbled, and threw an interception. So he became dangerous when he could run. You can see in those games that he started to pick up the rushing attack a little bit. So, again, dual threat quarterback, it does throw defenses off a little bit. And we know how successful he was with the deep ball. However, coming off of a knee injury, like you said, so coming off of a knee injury, we're looking at all just, I feel like a lot of people want to see success and are ignoring a lot of the warning signs of a young quarterback. He is a quarterback who liked to run, hurt his knee. He only played 7 games, only 5 of those games he threw an interception. His 4 monster weeks were against bottom of the line defenses. And he only played 1 top defense. I just think that there's a lot more that I need to see from Deshaun Watson to say that he's my every week quarterback where I'm going to play him against top defenses and not worry and not even think about it, kind of like an Aaron Rodgers. But I just think that you have to give up that draft price for him. And I just need to see more. I need to see more.
Yeah, and one big thing that I'm against is if I see a stat and I think it's a bubbled stat, like garbage time points, or if somebody puts up an 18-point week, but they had a 90-yard touchdown catch and that was all they did, you're not going to go add that guy off the waiver wire, right? Deshaun Watson, he had some great games last year, although some of those great games were accompanied by some bubble stats courtesy of Will Fuller. Started off against the Chiefs. Will Fuller hit a 48-yard touchdown catch, and essentially the Chiefs just undercut him. The Chiefs went to go cover a slant. It was just one-on-one coverage with a corner. Will Fuller is a fast guy, and he beat him. That was on Will Fuller to beat the corner, but can he do that every week? Teams are going to be planning for this. The next week has a 39-yard touchdown against the Browns, where he was just essentially left wide open, running downfield, sticks his hand up, Deshaun Watson hits him. Is it nice to see that Deshaun Watson can hit a guy who's wide open downfield for a touchdown? Of course it is. But is that going to happen every week? It shouldn't. It's the NFL. These guys are pros. Lastly, against the Seattle Seahawks, Will Fuller had 2 blown coverage touchdowns, and that was just icing on the cake for anybody who had Deshaun Watson that week.
It wasn't just on all of these balls, Will Fuller beating a guy, going up 50-50 jump ball. It didn't show us that Deshaun Watson could fit balls into tight spaces. It showed that, with the right play calling, they were fooling safeties. But this is a whole year later of studying this, and on pretty much all of these long touchdowns that are bubbling Deshaun Watson stats, safeties were making some pretty drastically awful decisions and leaving Will Fuller wide open. And even on one of the touchdowns, Richard Sherman, who was covering him pretty tightly, Will Fuller didn't even make a cut. He just turned the wrong way, and it left Will Fuller wide open. So it's it didn't show me that I trust Deshaun Watson in, tight coverage situations. It just showed that, like you said, he can just hit a wide open guy. But I want to see him be able to, not just be successful on blown coverages, but be successful when you have a tight window to fit it into. So the last guy on our list before we give you our against the grain picks is Kirk Cousins. So some of the rankings that Cousins has, some of the top people that he's particularly around 8, 9, like all the way around. Yahoo's got him at 9. Fantasy Pros has him at 8. Pro Football Focus at 7. You know, you see him as the lowest, 13, from one of the experts at Yahoo Sports. CBS Sports has him at 11. Friends with Fantasy Benefits, ooh, that's a good name, has him at 11. There are a number of people who have him higher. Gridiron Experts, Derek Brown from Gridiron Experts has him at 3. Jacob Hubman from the Fantasy Headliners has him at 5. Nick Zylak from Fantasy Football Advice has him at 5. Bobby Sylvester from the Fantasy Pros has him at 6. You know, Dan Harris from Fantasy Pros has him at 7. So there are a number who have him towards the top, like 5, 6, and there are a number who have him towards the end of QB1 around like 8, 9, 10. You know, some of them have him at 12 or 13. So tell me, do you see him as finishing more in that, you know, top 5 or 6, or do you see him at the end of quarterback 1 territory?
Yeah, no, not top 5. I have top 5 reserved for the usuals every year. He might slide in there, but like I said, I think the run game might take away from some of his opportunities. They might not need to be throwing the ball. Redskins were behind all the time. They just needed him to play catch up. So I definitely think they'll have leads later in games where they won't need to necessarily be gunslinging. Mm-hmm. They won't have many gunslinging matchups because of their defense.
Well, overall, he is most successful throwing to the like short right side. And deep, he's also more successful throwing to the right side of the field. Kyle Rudolph was actually most successful out of Diggs, Thielen, and Rudolph on the short right side. Had a 62% success rate on the short right side. So 39 attempts and 24 successful plays. Diggs on the short right side, 42 attempts, 23 successful plays for 55%. And then Thielen, 51 attempts on 23 successful plays, 45% on the short right side. But what it has to do with Kirk Cousins is that Kirk Cousins has tendencies. And his tendency over his career is to throw it to the tight ends. It is just good to see that when a quarterback comes into a new system, that where he is most successful throwing in the past is where his tight end is most successful catching in the past, because he consistently turns to his tight ends. That's just a little tidbit on why I think he's going to be successful. You know, because there's a lot more that's going to go into that, and there's like a lot more question marks of, you know, he goes into a new offense with 2 wide receivers that are way higher caliber of wide receivers than he's ever had before. How is he going to utilize them? How is he going to take to the new system?
He has better people around him, and that's all you need to know. He has a healthy tight end 1, top tight end in the league in Kyle Rudolph. Whether you like Thielen or Diggs more, whichever one you think is worst, he is better than his best receiver that he had last year. And he has 2 of them. And he now has a running game. But, I mean, I definitely think he'll be good for 250. I think he'll be good for the 2 touchdowns a game this year. Like, minimum. So come the end of the year, he'll have at least 35 touchdowns.
So you see 35 touchdowns as like where? Give him a number.
Looking at the rankings, I'm looking at ADP rankings right now. They have him ranked 8th. And honestly, that seems pretty fit. He's above guys that I would expect him to be better than. There's nobody above him that I think he's going to do better than. So I think his ADP is accurate. All these people doing these mock drafts on fantasyfootballcalculator.com. Shameless plug. I think they got it right.
See, okay, I will mostly agree with you. There. I think that what you had mentioned with good quarterback, good team, good situation, better than he had before, and he was successful before, you know, way more successful than the predecessor, Case Keenum, who he threw for 3,000 yards last year, but, you know...
didn't have Dalvin Cook the majority of the year. However,
Kirk Cousins, when played a whole season, has never thrown in the 3,000 yards, always in the 4,000 yards. So
I think he will. I'm not saying he'll do bad. I'm saying he's gonna do well. I'm just saying, is he better than Rodgers? Is he going to be better than Watson, Wilson, Brady? I think Wentz is ranked 2. He'll definitely be better than Wentz this year. Personal opinion, not not any bias. Honestly, no bias. I think he'll be better than Wentz this year. Cam Newton, like I said before, he is the best fantasy quarterback ever. I believe it's either him or Rodgers. They're just 1 and 2 right next to each other.
Yeah.
I'm always questionable about Cam. Is he going to be able to keep up the running every year? He keeps up the running, he's going to have a better year than Cousins. If he can't keep up the running, Cousins is definitely above him. And then the only other quarterback there is Breeze, which, I mean, Breeze is Breeze. I still have my faith in Breeze to keep it going.
No, so do I. Absolutely. See, I mostly agree with you there. I'm taking Wentz out of the situation, like you said.
Yeah, I don't think Wentz is.
Yeah, I'm dropping Wentz down to the end of quarterback 1. So then Kirk gets like a bump to 7, to the 7th quarterback.
Cam
off the
Newton
door.
is also iffy. Yeah, I'd bump him to 7.
The only other one that I'm iffy of in terms of a whole season is Deshaun Watson. Now, it's hard for me to sit here and say that Kirk Cousins finishes above Deshaun Watson, because if it doesn't happen, people will be like, well, the stats were there. Why didn't you listen to it? It's just there's another running quarterback who had an ACL tear, and he did not have much experience in the league so far. However, I'm gonna leave it as is. If I had to make a bold pick, Kirk Cousins is the number 6 quarterback, and I'm taking Deshaun Watson out of there. But most likely I'm going to leave him at 7. Yeah, so I'm going to agree with Mike Wright from the Fantasy Footballers, Kevin Wheeler from NFL Mock, Bobby Sylvester from the Fantasy Pros, guys like that. So, if you look at just a reminder, like the reason we mention all the rankings is that when we tell you where we agree that they should be ranked more than others, when you go into a website and you look at how those experts that you're looking at is ranking their quarterbacks, if you see something like different than what we're saying, just know that we've looked at a number of experts so that you can go into that and saying, oh, they mentioned that they would put Kirk Cousins around 6 or 7. This website that I'm looking at has him around 10. So, I'm going to go listen to, the challenge flag over there. Again, that's why we're going to keep mentioning the rankings, and we're going to keep referring it back to how other experts have them ranked, who we think is most right, so that when something pops up for you, you can say, no, we already talked about that, and, the challenge flag mentioned how they should actually be ranked there. Let's go against the grain here. Okay, so what we mean by going against the grain is there are certain guys that are, they're just ranked pretty much the same by everybody, not much of a difference in their rankings by a number of these experts. However, we feel a little bit differently, and we have very, very large opinions about certain aspects of fantasy football. And so this is the time of the show that we kind of, take a step back from just looking at the experts, and we give our 2 cents. So the first quarterback that we're going to be looking at in going against the grain is Drew Brees.
My boy,
yeah. Drew Brees, currently quarterback 7. ADP, number 7. ESPN, number 7. Yahoo ranked 5, 6, and 8. Guess what that averages out to? About
7.
About number 7. It's about 7. About 7. Everyone's has them pretty much around 7. 7 is the safe bet that everyone is doing.
Drew Brees is going to have a spectacular year.
So do you
I just think he had a down year. You can have a down year in your career. He's the 5th best fantasy quarterback of all time. You're allowed to have a down year.
True.
Did he show any signs of slowing down? No, he passed for 4,300 yards. Just because he didn't get the touchdowns. What you going to do? And he's got Alvin Kamara, who caught 81 balls for 800 yards last year. 2nd year in the system. They'll be using him the full season, not just half the season. There's no AP getting him playing time.
Yeah.
Mark Ingram is out 4 games. Alvin Kamara had 4 less catches than Le'Veon Bell and 175 more yards.
Woof.
How many touchdowns did he have last year?
Drew Brees? 23.
17 of them came from inside the 20. 12 came from inside the 10. So, I guess the red zone's still there. Maybe he's not getting those deep bombs because he didn't have Brandon Cooks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Michael Thomas isn't that kind of receiver. Cameron Meredith is.
But I just think that when a team has that good of a rushing attack, teams are going to come into it planning for that. And I think that if Sean Payton is smart, he's going to just realize what he has in Drew Brees. And again, Drew Brees he wasn't trying not to. You know, he led the league in yards per attempt, so he's not just like throwing it short and trying to manage the game. He broke the accuracy record. Think about that. He broke the accuracy record throwing it deeper than everyone else. Like that's absurd. That is a quarterback that's not, you know, a 7th overall quarterback. That's like in comparison with the top guys. And, you know, honestly, I would say if it wasn't for the amount of like points that you get from rushing, I would take Russell Wilson and Cam Newton below him too. But you get a lot of points for rushing as well. Yeah, so I would say that 4,300 yards doesn't mean that he's just looking to hand the ball off every play. His touchdown rate went down to 4.3 from inside the fives. That's going to jump up this year. You know, his passing to rushing touchdowns has always been 2-1. Last year was the only year that it was a 1-to-1 ratio. That's going to change as well. 20 rushing touchdowns between Kamara and Ingram is not sustainable. And like really honestly, all you need is the touchdowns to come back, which we are expecting them to do, and he's a top 5 guy. Okay, so right now, like we said, he's going 7th. Is the quarterback 7th off the board. The guys in front of him, ADP wise, Cam Newton, Carson Wentz, Tom Brady, Russell Wilson, Deshaun Watson, Aaron Rodgers. If you're gonna say
all accurate except Deshaun Watson and Carson Wentz.
So you think Drew Brees is 5? Put Deshaun Watson, Carson Wentz underneath that. Drew Brees is gonna be 5.
Yes.
All right, everybody, that's it for this week. Thanks for tuning in. You can always give us a follow on Twitter at @flag_challenge. Head over to YouTube and follow us at the Challenge Flag. Or if there are 2 players that you want us to take a look at or a subject that we did not cover that you would like us to cover, send us an email at thechallengeflagofficial@gmail.com. We'll make sure to include it in at the end of the episode. Before we go, we're going to send you over to Mike for a bold prediction for the season. Mike, take it away.
If you're looking for that spicy tech in your fantasy football lineup, this year's bold prediction quarterback I'm aiming to grab in the 14th or 15th round, Cleveland's own Tyrod Taylor. You got to go with this guy because, let's be honest, Josh Gordon, he's got the potential to be better than Antonio Brown. He's got the skill set. Jarvis Landry is Jarvis Landry. You throw him the ball, he's going to catch him. You throw him the ball 15 times a game, he'll catch all those balls. Corey Coleman, first-round pick, he's a wide receiver 2 anywhere else in the league. But he's a wide receiver 2 in the Browns. You know what else they got? They got Duke Johnson. The guy's a running back. Might as well be a wide receiver. They throw him out in the slot. David Njoku. Is like Evan Ingram. If Evan Ingram wasn't as good, but he's still a catching tight end. And he'll get the job done. And he'll get the ball on the ground. He's a running quarterback, although his passing numbers and rushing numbers have gone down the past few years. But he's in Buffalo. It's cold. You don't want to run. Your body's not warm. You don't want to take hits. Now he's over in Cleveland. Honestly, it's not much warmer, but he's got Josh Gordon. So that's my bold prediction. Take it or leave it, you filthy animals.